Greetings and welcome to our live review for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It is an open world action RPG set in the 15th century Bohemia, I believe. It is an acquired taste type of game that asks you to do a lot of minutia that you don't have to do in a lot of other games. It is an acquired taste for sure. Some people will love it. Some people will like it. Some people may hate it. But what do we think? Well, when I say we, I mean myself and Matt Keil. What's up, Matt?
Medieval times.
Medieval times. Did you play the first Kingdom Come Deliverance?
Oh, yeah.
I literally played like an hour and a half and bounced off it.
I played it at the time, and then I played it last year. I played it pretty much all the way through last year in the summer. Because I wrote some marketing stuff for this one, for Kingdom, right before it was announced.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you had the scoop on this game early before everybody else.
I had the footage for this long before it was public. It's not like anything else. It's like a medieval simulator, immersive sim kind of thing.
I think the simulator part is the most important word. Yeah.
It's like whether hell or high water, it is simulating some things that maybe we don't need to simulate quite so much.
I'll just say this: I'm glad I live in this century and not that century.
Yeah, it does a really good job of both the old one and the new one do a really good job of noting how dirty you get.
Yeah,
like no matter
and
what,
how smelly. I think after you play this game, you will know whether you would have fit in and survived in that century or not.
Well, clearly not, because I'm not enough of an asshole. Because God, everyone's a dick to Henry in this game. It's not like he doesn't always deserve it, certainly, but a lot of it is because he's just in the same place as Hans, right? Like in my game, Hans is your companion who gets in a fight, and then it causes a whole lot of problems for both of you, and then later everyone's like, I'm not talking to you because you were in a fight. I'm like, I was over here. I didn't do that. What are you talking about?
All right, let's talk about the story. So you kind of hinted at it a little bit. You follow this fellow named Henry, who was the star of the first game.
He's the main character. He's a blacksmith's son who his village got wiped out by invaders.
And he's not a ninja.
He's not a ninja. And he basically he's the only survivor, and he gets taken in under the wing of this local lord, and turns out he's actually the son of another noble, so he's actually eligible to become a knight. And so over the course of the game, he becomes a knight. And in this, he's with Hal, who's another knight, who is the son of a noble and raised as a noble. And in the first game, he's very antagonistic to you and a giant snobby asshole until you go on a hunting trip with him, and you end up saving his life from bandits, and then he becomes your friend. And so now you're sort of like best buddies.
And this is a buddy
trip. It's kind of a buddy trip, except one of the buddies thinks he's too good to do manual labor.
Right.
And actually, I guess I have had buddies that were like that. So maybe not super unrealistic, but there's there's a whole conversation where he's like, I can't help you. You're literally trying to do manual labor to pay off your debt so you can eat. And he's like, I can't be seen doing that. I'm a noble. He's like, no one knows you're a fucking noble. You're
just a
in
dude.
He's like, but one day I will not be dressed in rags, and they'll see me and be like, he was carrying sacks, and that can't happen. And I'm just like, man, maybe I should have left you to die. And sure enough, that is a pretty major schism between the two characters, and that's what sets Henry off into okay, now go do your open world game on your own, because Hal is no longer.
Henry and Hans are on a trip to deliver a letter.
I don't know why I want to call him Hal. I think it's because of the Henry IV equivalent.
Maybe
because Hal in Henry IV is sort of a noble guy, slumber. Yeah. He's the prince.
Yeah. Well, they're on a trip to deliver a letter to some other noble, and they set up camp along a stream, and they notice that there's women upstream. They get in the water, they go up and start peering at the women. While that happens, a bunch of people come in and completely slaughter their entire camp, kill all their men.
Henry tends to be the only survivor of massacres.
Yeah, well, it happens again at the beginning of this one.
One of his primary character traits.
Yeah, and then a bunch of crazy stuff happens, and Henry falls off a cliff, and as it turns out, Hans rescues Henry. The roles are reversed.
I mean, they are legitimately friends. They do help each other out. They don't leave each other to die.
Yeah. And so he takes you to this cabin with this old woman and her daughter, presumably. And they nurse you both back to health, and then...
In a day.
In a day. The story picks up, and then at least in my game, there's a falling out between Henry and Hans. There is?
Yeah, you have to get separated or the rest of the game can't happen.
Well, you never know if it's like this.
No, I know.
Okay.
There's no way. It doesn't matter what you do. They have to separate because all the dialogue and all the quests are angled toward that.
Right, you just wonder if maybe there's going to be a game someday that actually lets you stray that far away from the plot.
Obsidian would probably let you do that.
This one does not.
A lot of the choices in this game are kind of false dilemmas.
Yeah. Yep. And then you start having these flashbacks of what happened in the prior game where your family is massacred by the same bad guy who's also the bad guy in this game.
He's not really over it because you never really do get to fully confront that guy, and he still has... Because the last thing you did with your dad was you forged this really nice sword for the local lord, and obviously you never get... When you're going to deliver it, that's when the massacre happens, and someone steals the sword... And you never really get it back. Like, the villain is a real person. Like, everyone except Henry is a real person from history,
which is crazy.
They're not really themselves. Like, for instance, the villain of these games died, I think, like the year before these games take place.
Lots of talking in this, long, really drawn out conversations, but some of them are really funny. Like, I ran into this one guy who had been raised by bears. And that whole interaction is just hilarious. Like, there's legitimately funny moments in this game.
Yeah, sometimes Henry is just sort of a milquetoast dope.
And he also says your teeth are like stars in the night sky because they're yellow and far apart.
For a big simulator, the only thing it doesn't simulate very much is infection. I was waiting for. I'm like, at some point, one of these fucking arrow wounds is going to get infected, right? That's what would kill this guy in real life.
This game also has choice in dialogue. You can choose things. I will say that, like, what I selected, I never would have guessed would be played out the way that it does.
No, they wander off direction. And also, like, sometimes you can pick things based on kind of your expertise with these very obscure symbols. Which, like, I guess the crown is nobility knowledge, and I guess the swords is warfare knowledge, and I guess the anvil is blacksmith. None of it really seemed to matter. It was like every time I picked one of those, I failed at it. It was just like, okay. And they show like little numbers on them as like which ones you're better at, but it never really seemed to matter.
It just like it worked. I do feel like the plot in this game is good though. Like the woman that rescues you at the beginning, like over the course of the game, you start to figure out why she's out in the woods, and the
thing is, like, I think to get the most out of this game's narrative, you have to do the side stuff.
Yeah. So I think the side stuff, I can't believe some of the stuff that is a side quest is a side quest.
The side quests are big adventures. Like anything. That's one thing I learned early on was if I go, because it's not one of those things where it's like, I want to go to bed soon, so I'm just going to go do the side quest. No, that side quest is like 4 hours long.
Right.
Like, you're going to need to, like, commit to your whole play session is going to be that side quest. There aren't too many side quests where you don't learn something that kind of makes the main story is relevant somehow to the main story.
It's true.
And sometimes that can help if you find out more about the local culture or customs or the local lord or something. Like, then when you have to deal with that lord, you might know a little more about him and know which response is going to, like, get his favor or piss him off.
I mean, the other thing that's really accurate and makes it feel more realistic is how women are treated. Women are second-class citizen. Women aren't allowed to compete with men. Women aren't allowed to do the same things that men are allowed to do. You talked earlier about the caste system, about how certain people are only supposed to do certain things. And if you're a certain lineage or whatever, then you don't do manual labor. It doesn't matter where you are. Like, all these little things add up to really sink you into this whole medieval setting. And it just, I mean, if you've ever wanted to know what it was like to live during these times, I would argue this is probably the best way to ever figure it out.
It's about as close as you're going to get with a video game.
I really like the story in this game. I think it's like an 8.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty impressed. Like, I did feel like there are consequences that cascade on down hours and hours later from the things you do.
And they clearly did. I mean, there's a lot of work here to make those characters period accurate and weave it all together and make it all feel like a singular place and make it all feel like it fits in the time period. And for the most part, there are no winks to the camera in this game. There is no like, there's no Monty Python.
Taking liberties there.
Yeah, there's no Monty Python reference all out of nowhere. It's like, it is all played completely straight.
Oh, that would be brilliant.
And they did the homework for it, for sure.
I mean, for sure.
Every single person who worked on this game clearly goes to Ren Fairs at some point.
All right, next up is options. It's how the game is designed, how all the systems work. When you hit the start button, what are all the options there? This game is an open world action RPG, and we mentioned in the story section that it really steers towards realism. the options bear that out. And I would argue that maybe they bear that out a little bit too much. You know, it's a fine line to walk between giving you enough RPG elements so that you feel like you're role-playing and you're sunk into the character, but not so much that it almost becomes like a job. And I would argue that this game strays a little bit towards the job part of that.
Yeah, definitely. Getting dressed definitely feels like work sometimes. Where I'm like, I don't know which one's better. It's condition or that armor's better. But now it makes me slower. But now if I put this on, it makes me really conspicuous. What the fuck does that mean?
What does that mean?
Like if you want to sneak, you can't sneak, but it's because you're wearing like some goofy hat. You know, it's like
it's like you can't go out in a village at night unless you have a torch, or they're gonna throw you in the brig.
That was true in the first game as well.
Was it?
They were obsessed with having a torch out in civilization areas.
I will say this about the world: the world is like too alive. Because you'll be like having a conversation with someone and like an NPC will just like walk between you, or like you'll be standing there like at a counter, and NPC will just act like you're not there and just walk up to the counter. Like the things are just happening independent of what you're doing.
Like one time I was finishing it, like talking to a character and like in the back, as it switched back to Henry, I just saw 3 wolves like running towards me down through the field behind me. I'm like, this conversation's probably gonna end in a second. Like, just a hunch, and sure enough, the wolves killed me before I could really pull my sword out, and that was.
I mean, it really does feel like you're in Bohemia.
Yeah, you are
living in the mud and the muck.
Yeah, you are definitely in a world.
Yeah.
In a world.
In a world. Going back to the kind of overkill stuff, so you have to watch bleeding, hunger, and cleanliness, things that typically you don't have to watch in any other RPG.
And fatigue.
And if you stink.
Which is different from hunger.
And if you're dirty, like if you go to certain places.
And it's not just you, it's also the clothes you're wearing.
Right.
The clothes can be bloody, they can be dirty, they can be
wear
smelly,
out.
Like they can wear out.
You can wear out your boots, and then suddenly in this game, in the early going, the economy is so freaking stingy.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, hey, you need a new pair of boots. It's like, they're 5 gold pieces. I have like 2.5 gold pieces.
Well, and
like,
and like you're like, well, maybe I should go steal some boots, and that's basically this game. It's like we are going to tempt you to do to sin, and we're going to say that it's much better not to, but it's almost impossible not to because life's hard, and life's harder here than you could even imagine.
That's the one thing I picked up from playing this game is it pushes you to be bad. It's like if you decide you don't want to steal or do anything nefarious, it takes a long time to get a horse.
Right.
Or you could just walk behind a barn and hop on the horse that's sitting there and take it. Like, and there are repercussions in this game for being bad.
They will remember, they figure out who did it.
Even if they didn't see you steal, they'll go in, they'll be like, you were in there, and now this thing is missing. They'll deduce that you stole.
Because who else could have done it?
Right.
And then, like, I mean, there's things like you can pickpocket people's house keys.
Right.
But they'll notice those keys are gone, and 2 or 3 days later, they'll change the locks on the door, and the key you have won't work anymore. And I'm like, that's remarkable.
I mean, it is remarkable, but it's also
annoying, but
it's
it's remarkable.
I mean, again, if you are looking for a medieval simulator, here you go. But realism doesn't always make for great video games.
It's like constantly in terms of like the simulation of the world and the behavior of the characters. I'm just like, and like the detail of the objects and inventory and everything. I'm just like, wow, you thought of that.
The UI also is like a confusing mess. It's just
tough.
This plaster of just numbers and icons.
It really wants to be used by a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah,
like it's not. I mean, you can do it with a controller, and I'm playing with a controller on PC. But it's like the inventory, like equipment screen is like like a normal thing. But then like the descriptions of the objects are like on a panel, like a little bit off the screen, and you have to hit the left button or stick rather to like kind of scroll over there. But then you lose this side
else.
of it.
It's idiotic.
And it's just like,
what are you doing?
Like, why can't I see all the information about this one tab in one screen? Like, it doesn't seem like that. Maybe if you didn't have 14 different like metrics for every equipment stat.
It took me a while to figure out how to spend perk points. It took me a while to figure out where the frickin' hunger meter was. It's like they say I'm hungry, but when I go to the screen, where do I see that I'm hungry?
Right, and it turns out the easiest way to see how hungry and tired you are is just to hit the back button and look at the clock, the weight clock.
Yeah, and that does show you. Yeah, but it's just there's so much stuff to keep track of that does not make the game more entertaining to play.
And if you get hit, you can take damage, but you can also take stamina, and you can get a wound, and if you get wounded, the wound thing pops up, and if it fills up past halfway, now you're bleeding. And once you bleed, you have to bandage the thing back up to 50% so you stop bleeding, or you keep losing health.
And then you got to use health.
And then you have to rest somewhere with a bed to get rid of that wound, and it might not get rid of the wound. It might, you have a chance to get rid of the wound.
And you might get arrested in the middle of the night sleeping in a bed if it's not your bed.
It better be your bed, yeah.
It's crazy.
It's amazing how many people suddenly go and patrol their barn
right.
at 3 a.m. in
know,
1398 or whatever year this is.
Yep, there's extensive crime and reputation system in the game.
Yeah.
So, but I think ultimately it's worth stealing. I don't think that the detriment to it is strong enough to convince me to not do it.
I think it would be very hard to find, unless you're doing it intentionally, it'd be very hard to find someone who played this game and didn't do something illegal at some point, because you're just you're at the bottom of the rock bottom tier of society.
The activities, you know whether you're being good or bad. You know how it's going to affect your reputation. Conversations, though, it's impossible. You could select something, and you're like, oh, this is going to increase my rep. No. They take it the wrong way. They're like, oh, you're a dirty bastard. To me, there's a lot of problems with the design, but I think for a particular kind of person, it's like heaven.
Yeah, it's like, it's not really for me. And
Me
it's
either.
not like I can't I mean, I got through the first game, and this is more of that, really. I wonder if my fatigue with this is in part because I just played through the first game less than a year ago. Yeah. And I'm like, again?
Well, I don't know. I didn't play the first game at all, and it's really
but I'm
getting under my skin.
I have a lot more patience with tedium than you do for the most part. Yeah. But this was a little beyond.
Even for you.
And it's like, I wouldn't want it to be really all that different, because for whoever wants this game to be this game,
at least there's one.
It's paradise. You know, like, if I want a game that doesn't do those things, I have almost every other open world RPG to choose from. Yep. There is no other game that does this.
And I think in a nod to those players we were talking about, I think, we maybe should bump up the score for options a little bit. I'm thinking like a 7.
Yeah, you certainly can't argue there are not options.
Because I would give it a 5, but these other people would give it a 10. I think if you find it in the middle somewhere, I think a 7 probably makes sense for that.
I can't deny that those systems are there, and the options are there. It's just,
and they work.
They do what they say. They say what they do. It's just
whether you like it or not.
They mostly just annoy me. But I don't know. You can only fault something for being what it is so hard. It's not like their failures are flawed or broken. It's just, you are doing what you want to do very well, and I don't particularly like what you want to do.
Next up, interaction or gameplay, and this is where the rubber really hit the road for me with this game. I am typically a gameplay first guy, and I found pretty much every element of the gameplay in this game to be clunky and annoying.
Yeah, if you would like to look
up clumsy,
if you look up the word janky, in the dictionary, picture of this game is next to it.
Do you think it's on purpose? Because I feel like they have to know.
I think they do know. It's just, again, it's like that thing where it's like it works well enough.
Yeah,
like you can get through it. But I just don't like. There's parts of it where I just don't understand what I'm like. It takes forever to get anywhere. 20 minutes?
Well, because if you
run... and I run out of stamina, and I'm like, okay, I gotta walk for a while. I'm sprinting, and then I run into some bandits, and I don't really... And they kill me in 5 seconds.
Because you have no stamina,
and I ran out of stamina, I didn't have time to draw my sword, and I have to, like, reload the game. Now I'm lost 20 minutes back. I'm back in the fucking town, because you can't save whenever you want, because you have to save your schnapps to do a hard save.
That happened to me all the time, where I couldn't get my sword out in time. Like, I would run into somebody on a trail, they're like, you're gonna die! They pull out their sword and start hacking me, and I'm like, ugh!
Like, I never really had that problem when I was ready for it, but like early, basically the first couple times that happened, I'm like, okay, everyone I meet on the road is gonna try to kill me.
You figure that out fast.
I'm just gonna have to recognize that if I see someone and they don't instantly go like, hi, I'm gonna like pull my sword out. Like,
you also learn very quickly to stay out of the woods. Because you go in the woods, there's like packs of wolves or dogs, which you might be able to fight off if you're in the field somewhere.
Yeah.
But in the woods, where there's all these bushes and you can't see them.
I mean, your biggest enemy in the game is your stamina bar.
Yeah. And it is way too small.
You just can't, and like, there's no easy way to expand it.
3 hacks, and you're like, I'm like, oh crap, what do I do now?
It's like the hacks are so unlikely to hit.
Right.
And the distance and like hitting the wolves with it's like, I have no idea how far away they
just run, and you can't outrun them.
And like as long as you're locked on and facing them, you can do the thing where like the green shield pops up, and you counter that, and you get the blue icon. You can you can riposte.
Yeah.
That was basically how the combat worked in the first game for the most part.
It kind of has the Red Dead 2 syndrome, where it makes everything like hyper realistic.
Yeah, everything's a process.
But it's also arduous and tedious and archaic at the same time. Like, it just makes everything as complicated as possible. And why? Like, I guess there are people out there that enjoy that. I don't know why they would enjoy that. Like,
I don't know.
just go live life if you like that stuff. Well, then you get jobs, and they're also tedious and monotonous. You have to keep beating the steel.
I mean, sure enough, being a blacksmith is not a lot of fun. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. I wouldn't mind being a blacksmith.
The alchemy's all annoying. You have to go through these 80-step processes just to make one potion.
Well, my issue with that is, like I don't mind the alchemy. I think the alchemy's kind of interesting in some ways, where you have to, like, look at the
lower it into the flame, lift it up.
But the problem is that, like, time keeps moving. So it's like I made one potion and all of a sudden it's 9 p.m.
Time to go to sleep.
I was gonna go to town now that I have a potion to sell, and it's like, nope, you gotta go to sleep. Not here though.
Yeah.
Like,
Even
we'll arrest you if you sleep here.
Even just trying to eat, it's like you go into the menu, you're like, oh, there's an apple. I want to eat the apple, and it comes up with this menu that says, no, you need a pouch. And you're like, so for the first, like, 40 minutes I played it, I'm like, well, I don't have a pouch. I need to find a pouch. So I started, like, looking around, trying to find a pouch. I couldn't find a freaking pouch. I went back to the menu, and I realized I could eat the apple if I held the button.
Yeah.
It's like, this game is just full. It's like, why? Why put the menu there saying you need a pouch? Like, just let me eat the apple by tapping.
Because when you tap it, you're trying to put it in another container.
I get it, but it's just ridiculous.
It's very Ultima.
It's insane. You get herbs, but if you keep them, they go bad. Food goes bad. So you have to dry the herbs on a rack, or you have to cook the food. Even after you cook the food, it still goes bad eventually, which poisoned me one time, which put me in that weird loopy thing that you're talking about, where you're like, well, I'm poisoned, so I need this, but I can't go there because it's closed, so do I just stand here and wait until I die? It just turns into this...
You just reload.
You're just like, the first couple times it happens, you try to figure out a way around it. The jump button's on the jump is on the circle button? What kind of psychopath puts jump on the circle button? That's insane. I can't remember another game in my entire life where jump was circle. It took me forever to figure out how to lockpick. You can accidentally walk into the wrong house, and the person is there like, you're not supposed to be in here. Next thing you know, you're arrested.
Right. Well, I love that, like,
you're in the blocks for 4 days.
Well, I love that it's like okay, so when you do that, it's going to throw up this sign, and then if you walk into somewhere that you're not supposed to be, that's just a trespassing thing. That's a blue symbol that pops up. But if someone tells you to get out and you don't get out in time, it turns to a red symbol because now you're really in trouble.
Riding the horse, awkward and clunky.
Yeah.
Combat, awkward and clunky. I say interaction gets a 4.
Yeah, like
that
4 or
might
5.
even feel a little generous.
I don't know.
I did not enjoy the playing of this game. I enjoyed being, like, immersed into the setting.
It's not often that I wish something was a visual novel.
Yeah.
But I do kind of wish I could just play the story.
Yep, I agree. Okay, up next, graphics. Wow. Game is gorgeous.
Yeah.
This game is beautiful on so many levels. It's like, even though it's grimy and bloody and smeared with crap or whatever.
Yeah, but every once in a while you get out into, like, a big field and you're like, wow. Look at that. You can see all the way, like, you can see miles.
Oh, yeah. Literally miles.
Yeah.
And you can go there.
Yeah.
That's not like a bitmap. That's the world there. Like, this game, like, really does sink you in to that time period, unlike anything else I've ever played.
Yep. I mean, it almost makes me sneeze, because that's mainly what I would be doing at that time, is just being allergic to all the grass.
Yeah. My only real quibble with the visuals is facial animation. It's a little wooden.
Yeah, it depends on like Henry's very good.
Yeah.
Hans is very, like, the main characters are very well done, but you get to some of the random peasant. Although I will say the facial variety is very good.
It is.
Like, you rarely see two people that look the same.
It's true. Yeah.
In fact, I wouldn't be surprised.
Horrible haircuts.
Yeah.
Which I think
Well,
is
they're all doing it
accurate for the
themselves,
time. Yeah.
But like, I wouldn't be surprised if almost every character in the entire game is handmade.
I wouldn't either. Yeah, I don't think it's AI making those characters.
It really feels like everybody is in a particular place for a reason, and it feels like whoever designed, like, that one guard on that one parapet could tell you, like, that guy's backstory.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, seriously. I did have some issues with the game being really dark. I had to turn up the brightness on my OLED TV. Like, I went out at night without a torch, I couldn't see anything.
Oh, that's intentional, though.
Is it?
You're supposed to need a torch at night.
Yeah, it does.
And
like, I had to
enough,
crank up the brightness on my TV so I could see what was going on.
No, that's sort of like Dragon's Dogma. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to not be able to see anything at night.
Yeah.
Like, that's intentional.
And you played the PC version of this game, right? Did the map stutter for you? Like when you're trying to scroll on the map, did it stutter?
No.
It does on the PS5 version. When you scroll the map, it stutters. It's crazy. I don't know why.
I will say that I was using frame generation on the DLSS frame generation, and unlike most other games, there wasn't really ghosting on the this one works pretty cleanly with that. So it looked very, very good.
And then it's very realistic. We were talking about it earlier about how you go to a cutscene and suddenly you see your character and he's just smeared with blood.
It's just more. It's doubly impressive because it's this game costs I think $40 or $50 million. Yeah. It's like a tenth of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Which is maybe less.
Every single dollar of it is on the screen.
Oh yeah. I mean this game looks gorgeous. There's no doubt about it. It just really sucks you in to that time period. Whether you like it or not, it really pulls you in. I found it to be pretty impressive, honestly. Yeah, it's one of the better looking games I've played in recent memory. I did not expect it from this game because, again, I played the first one for an hour. The first one did not look
that, it was not the equivalent of that.
No, for its time period, it wasn't at all. So this studio, Warhorse, has definitely stepped up its game in the visual department. I'm saying an 8. Mm-hmm. You agree with that?
I would go with that,
yeah.
I could even go higher if I wanted,
Yeah. The faces, I think, will keep that from happening.
It's hard for me to know.
You stare at faces a lot in this game.
Yeah, but it's hard for me to know which faces are that and which faces are just medieval person. It's
right. Next up, sound.
Keep firing! Don't stop!
This is a mixed bag for me, but mostly it's really good. One of the issues that I found with the audio, though, is the sound mixing for channels is a little off. So there's some cutscenes where they'll have a mic placed in some weird place, next to a cricket or something, and all you can hear is the freaking cricket for 30 seconds. And so I'm walking up to my TV, trying to hear the center channel where the VO is supposed to be coming from.
I admit it was only for a few groschen from some suspicious lad who found it down by the Rock Tower Pond, but that horse is not branded. So it belongs to me now.
Voices are generally great, and there's so many.
So many, and they're all their own character.
They're all their own. You walk into a house, there's 8 people milling around the house. Yeah. They're all different.
That first village you start in, after a while, I could recognize which peasant it was.
Yeah.
Even if they weren't one of the major. I'm
major
that's that
players.
guy with the orange shirt. Yeah. I've seen him before. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Of them showing their goat faces around here.
Someone should teach them how things work in these parts. They didn't have much anyway.
Music was good, period appropriate.
Sounds like maybe recorded live with actual instruments at the time.
Yeah, instead of it being electronic. Yeah, I think so.
I'm not sure about that, but it sounded real. It sounded authentic.
The audio in this is great. Yeah. It really is. And then the sound effects, placement, all that, the scene early on where you are with Hans in the water and your camp starts getting attacked. Mm-hmm. I knew the camp was starting to be attacked before they showed me.
You could hear it.
I could hear it. The fighting started happening, the clanging of the swords, and I was like, what is that? And then the camera cut.
Some really good, disgusting mud.
Oh, yeah, the
squishing of things you step on and walk through, the bogs.
The Foley work is really good in this, too. Good. Yep, they did a great job. I'm saying 8?
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, next up is progression. That's how you level up, how quickly you level up, how you level up, what it requires to level up, making headway through the game, how the saving works, are there fast travel points, all that kind of stuff. The first thing I'm going to say is the fast travel in this game is pretty freaking cool. Because if you go to a map and you can choose your fast travel point, and then your character actually travels along that path, and along the way, he may come across bandits, he may come across a damsel in distress, and it'll tell you, there's a woman here who looks like she's in danger. Do you want to stop? Or they'll be like...
And the answer is always no, because you're going to die.
If they ever say it's a bandit, do not go to... Because there's going to be 4 of them.
There's a bandit. It's no, there are bandits.
Yeah, and they're going to tell you, they're going to say, either give us all your money, or we're going to kill you. Mm-hmm. And they mean it. And there's no getting out of it.
Yeah, you can't win that fight.
Brings us to another important point, how you can save in this game, or how you can't. Typically, you have to sleep in your bed to save in this game, or you could drink this concoction that will help you save, but... that you can't get that concoction anywhere. You have to use like the alchemy stuff to do it, and it takes like forever to create one of the frickin' potions.
Usually you get 2.
Yeah, you're right. You do get 2, but
and,
still,
or you can buy it and you can't afford anything early on, so it doesn't help.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
You can save and quit whenever you want. Like you're not like you don't have to keep playing the game until you get to a save point. You can save and quit whenever you want. It makes a quick save basically that is erased when you reload the game up.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that. Like if you need to quit the game or stop playing.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
You don't have to leave your console on overnight or whatever.
But that save will not stay once you reload it.
The autosaves can be brutal. So there's one mission where you're trying to locate, I don't want to spoil too much, but you're trying to locate this girl. You can't locate her, but you've kind of got your first clue. So you go to this farm and you talk to the owner of the farm and you talk to her about the girl. He gives you some more information about her and somebody else. And then he tells you, hey, I have this farmhand who probably knows more. And as it turns out, the farmhand is the person who knows more. And you go and you meet with him and you can choose to kill him or you can choose to let him live. I chose to let him live. So then the next thing you do is you go on this trip up to the jail and you talk to the bailiff or whatever, and you can go through this other dialogue tree where you decide whether you want to just turn him in or you want him to hang or whatever. You go through that process with the bailiff. He's like, okay, that's all done. Leave. Then if you die or anything happens after that, you have to start the whole thing over. I just gave up on the quest. I got tired of it. I'm like, I'm just burning 45, 50 minutes at a time every time I try this thing, and I would always end up getting killed right afterwards before something would trigger that would start the save. Like, in fact, after I went to the bailiff, I then went to the blacksmith, started blacksmithing as a job, finished my first sword, then died, and had to start all the way over. So some of the autosaves in this are pretty freaking brutal.
Every 5 or 10 minutes, I would say, I would get an auto. And like sometimes that's not enough. It stops doing it at the least convenient times.
It does, man.
Like when I'm trying to get up to this blacksmith thing and I kept running into bandits or wolves, and every time I'm like, maybe it saved, like I was right near, I was almost there, I could see it. I could see nope, you're back to the whole thing. And I'm like, and of course it auto-saved at the end of the quest. So I had to go talk to everybody again. I had to talk to the bailiff again. I had to get that other quest. I had to talk to the other guy. I had to sell the stuff I wanted to sell before I left. So it was literally 20 minutes every single time I wanted to retry this. And if I just happened to run into wolves or bandits, I knew I didn't have enough stamina to outrun them, so I was just dead.
I feel like this game was just constantly trying to convince me to stop playing it.
Yeah.
I felt like it was just testing me. It's like, are you going to put up with this? Are you going to be able to deal with this? The early going, the economy in this is brutal. It takes forever to get a horse.
No, to steal a horse.
I got poisoned, but I wasn't bleeding. It was continually lowering my health. The fast travel when I was poisoned was blocked, and I just got caught in this loop of like trying to survive. And eventually I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to go to one of the autosaves, and I ended up having to go back like an hour to learning to blacksmith again. Like, it just... That's how this game is. It is just brutal. One thing I liked about this is, like, if you have something that's happening in the morning or at night, you don't have to go, like, do busy crap or whatever. You can just hit, I think it's the back button.
Back button shows you the thing.
And it'll bring up the clock, and you can just let the time pass if you want to.
You do get hungry, but...
And you do. The other stuff still happens, by the way, but at least the time goes forward. That's about the only positive trait about the progression in this game. I thought it was abysmal. Like, I'm talking like a 3.
Yeah, and you work your way through, like, you get skill upgrades by doing, basically by, like, whatever you're doing.
And if you go up a level, you get perk points.
They get some very rudimentary perks early on.
Yeah.
It's not a very satisfying upgrade system, even when you find, oh, that looks like a good upgrade, and, like, you finally get it, and it's just like, oh, this didn't actually make the difference I thought it was going to make.
Yeah, it's very incremental. Like, upgrades in this, you don't notice them right away at all.
No, it's very slow.
Yeah. Are you okay with the 3 for progression?
Yeah, again, like, I know there's a point, from playing the first game, I know there's a point where you reach a point where, like, you're kind of proficient at all the things you like
get over
doing.
The hump.
And it's like, it's less frustrating and it's a little less it feels like less of a coin flip that you succeed at the things you're trying to succeed at. But, like, you have to get through so much bullshit first. So, yeah, I will never see that part. So
I don't think I will either. Our last category is value, and I feel like this is another category where certain people are going to love this game, and it's a gigantic game.
Hours and hours of doing the same side quest over and over again.
And to them, it's a 10 out of 10 for value. For me, somebody who does not enjoy this game and will never make it to hour 50, like, none of it matters because I don't enjoy playing it, so its value is very low for me. So maybe we got to find somewhere in the middle of the 10 and the 5.
Yeah, I don't know. So there's a whole lot of stuff in here.
Yeah.
Like, it's
if you're into this.
Yeah, it's a big meaty game. It's a big, functioning world. It's a thing, it's like nothing else.
The plot's really intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very detailed. It's gorgeous. Yeah. A lot of it feels like it's just built on sticks.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there's an underlying bed of like a solid foundation of where everything kind of grows from. It just feels like systems kludged together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the value in it because there's nothing else like it, but
truth be told,
there might be a reason there's nothing else like it.
Yeah. Truth be told, I didn't enjoy it that much. I still got like almost 20 hours of entertainment out of it.
Yeah.
Entertainment. So I guess that says something.
Yeah, I played it for a while. I played it for 15 or so hours. Like, it's not nothing.
Yeah.
But I was really kind of... I was
fighting.
I don't feel like I was anywhere near the halfway point.
Oh, no.
In the end.
Oh, no, not at all. So maybe this is a score we find in the middle. Maybe it's a 5 for us, a 10 for other people, another 7.
Yeah, I guess so.
That makes sense? All right, so we've tabulated the scores for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and the average works out to a 6.4. Now, again, we will remind you once again that our averages don't mean anything. We'll never submit them to Metacritic. No one's ever going to lose a bonus over this final average that we give. It's just a frame of reference. That said, on a 10-point scale, that's probably about what I would give this game.
Yeah.
I think that's about the Metacritic average from the first game.
Yeah, I'm stunned at even as someone who drafted it in my fantasy league, I'm like, I am stunned by the Metacritic on this thing.
Is it still like a 9?
I think it's
around
like 88 or something.
Yeah. To me, that's way too high, but obviously the people who were reviewing this are the people we were talking about earlier. The people who like to be immersed, like to have every little detail, like to be sucked into a setting and feel like they're actually living and breathing in it. And this game absolutely nails that. And I think we've rewarded it appropriately for what it does well. We gave it an 8 in its story. It does have a great story. It's a big game. We gave value a nice score. It has a lot of options. Options got a decent score.
Yeah, it's an 88.
An 88, which is way higher than I would ever give it on any scale.
88, 87s on the
consoles. That's good for you.
That is the best 10th pick of all time.
It really is. So I feel pretty good about this 6.4, even though it's just some goofy average from all our scores. Like, I still feel like that's a rough approximation of what the game actually represents at the end of it all.
Yeah, on like a legitimate 10-point scale, I would say.
Yeah.
On the 7 and 9 scale, I would probably rate it a little higher.
Yeah, I would too. But have no interest in playing another one of these.
No,
I didn't play the first one more than an hour because I figured it out very quickly.
I feel like I will probably come back to this during a drought later this year. Like, at some point, I'm going to run out of other things to play, and I'm be like, I'm going to take a real crack at that one and really try to make some headway, which is what happened with the first one last year. I'm in part because I needed to I don't remember what happened in this fucking game. I need to, if I'm going to write like 5 minutes about it of the new one that I don't know anything about, I better at least remember who the fucking names are.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I was glad I did it. Like, I once I figured it out, it kind of like all sort of clicked. But it was I was hoping that having gone through that first one last year and kind of handled it, I would be able to kind of just sort of jump onto this one and
slide right in.
It really didn't work that way. I feel like I'm fighting this one the same way I fought the first one until I kind of came to terms with it. And I just, with all the other stuff out right now, I do not have the patience to grapple with this game rather than just moving on to something I like better.
I can understand why there are people out there that love this game.
Yeah.
It's just not for me. It's just not my thing. So I can appreciate other people like things that I don't. I'm assuming they will appreciate that I like things that they don't. That's just kind of the way it goes. I will say, though, for this type of game, it's probably about as good as it gets.
Yeah, for sure. It's its own thing. It makes no apologies for what it is, and it is an uncompromising. It's uncompromising in what they're trying to do with it, and that's to be admired, I think.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching our live review of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and we'll see you next time.